The national broadcaster is tonight without a chairman or a permanent managing director after one of the most dramatic weeks in the ABC's history. The chairman, Justin Milne, has resigned just days after sacking Michelle Guthrie.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And what a crazy week that was, with the ABC's two top bananas out the window in just 3 days. By the end, Justin Milne had lost the confidence of ABC staff, the Journalists' Union, News Corp columnists, the federal opposition and the government, which let it be known on Thursday as the ABC board debated Milne's future that they hoped he'd be gone by the end of the week. So, what was his crime? Well, first was this email in May following a government complaint about ABC chief economics correspondent Emma Alberici, in which Milne told his MD,
"They frickin' hate her. She keeps sticking it to them with a clear bias against them. We clear her as okay, we are tarred with her brush. I just think it's simple. Get rid of her."
Next came the charge that he'd tried to stop Triple J moving the Hottest 100 from Australia Day because, quote, Malcolm will go ballistic. And finally came revelations on the front page of the Telegraph that Milne had urged Guthrie to
shoot him.
Him being the ABC's Andrew Probyn.
Angry ABC chairman ordered the sacking of political editor who was hated by Turnbull.
So, why did Milne have to go? Because, under the ABC Act, it is the duty of the board and its chair
to maintain the independence and integrity of the corporation.
And Milne did just the opposite. On Thursday, he told Lee Sales he'd just been trying to protect the public broadcaster.
I feel that the interests of the ABC have always been uppermost in my mind. When there is an issue of editorial independence and accuracy, it's appropriate for the chair to be involved. That's the chair's job. It's defined.
But it's also the chair's job to resist government bullying. And even though this government has been worse than most, he did not have to buckle. Back in 1984, when Ken Meyer faced similar pressures from Labor's Bob Hawke, he did not give in. As the Herald reported at the time,
the ABC will not be talking to Mr Hawke about his bias allegations. As long as he was chairman, Mr Meyer said, the ABC would not be open to political pressure on the contents of its programming.
Ah, those were the days. So, what next? Well, the focus is now on the ABC board, as you can see from these headlines at the end of last week. And on both sides of politics, there have been calls for them to face the firing squad.
This draws a real question over the entire membership of the ABC board as it stands.
Now, if that board can't protect the ABC from political interference, it should also quit.
That would just add to the chaos. But are the ABC's directors the right people to be running such an important national institution? And how did they get their jobs? As The Guardian revealed on Friday, many of them were captain's picks.
Almost all the directors of the ABC's 8-member board were appointed directly by the Minister for Communications, Mitch Fifield, and some were appointed after being rejected by the merit-based nominations panel.
Fancy that. Up until 2013, governments of both sides stacked the ABC board with their political mates. But in its last year of office, Labor tried to change that by introducing what ABC friends welcomed as a transparent and merit-based process with an independent selection panel. And Communications Minister Stephen Conroy pledged that
if the Communications Minister does not appoint a shortlisted candidate, the Minister will be required to provide reasons to Parliament.
So, has it worked? Sadly, no. 10 months after the election, the Abbott government's Communications Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, caused uproar by appointing 2 new members to the 4-person panel. One was right-wing columnist, ex-ABC director and fierce ABC critic, News Corp's Janet Albrechtsen. The other was a former Deputy Liberal leader, Neil Brown QC, who made his views on the ABC even clearer.
He's alleged the ABC is biased and he says he'll be looking for directors to bring balance. He's also quoted as saying he'd like to sell off the ABC and start from scratch.
Not surprisingly, ABC friends called those appointments
a declaration of war on the ABC's independence.
But even then, the selection panel has been overridden by the government. 3 of the ABC's remaining directors, Donnie Walford, Vanessa Guthrie and Joseph Gersh, were not the panel's pick, while Guthrie and Walford were not even on the shortlist. So why did Mitch Fifield pick them? Well, we don't know, but Vanessa Guthrie is chair of the Minerals Council of Australia. And Joseph Gersh is an old friend of Peter Costello and on the board of the Sydney Institute. In The Guardian on Thursday, the Australia Institute's Ben Oquist commented,
"The appointment process has again become deeply politicised and basic governance standards have been breached."
But as former ABC chairman and MD David Hill says, this is how it has always been.
I'm not singling out the coalition government because Labor has been just as guilty. When it comes to the crunch, they cannot resist the opportunity of stacking the ABC board with like philosophical minds.
Meanwhile, only two of the ABC's directors, Peter Lewis, the former CFO of the Seven Network, and Jane Connors, elected by ABC staff, have any significant experience in the media. One anonymous former ABC director told MediaWatch scathingly that no one in their right mind would choose the current ABC board to run a billion-dollar media group, and added that the board must have professional skills and experience in all of the following: finance, because the ABC has a billion-dollar budget; program or content making, because that's what it does; reaching a mass audience, because all taxpayers pay for it; disruption, because the media is changing so fast; HR, because people are its main asset; and dealing with the government, because they pay the bills. David Hill has a shorter but equally pungent list of demands.
Really, at the end of the day, you just want really competent people with good judgment who are capable of assessing the information put before them and making the right decisions, and capable of defending the ABC, its independence and its impartiality.
So the $64,000 question is, how do you get them? And the answer, governments please note, is to not select them for their politics.
I think that they should have a rigorous independent assessment of the suitability of candidates who are being nominated to the board, and I think there should be some bipartisanship in the appointments as well.
So, will it happen? Well, it certainly needs to. And there are calls today from crossbench Senator Tim Storer for Parliament to make sweeping changes, like publicising the panel's choice before ABC directors are appointed.
The government would also need to publicly explain in advance and in good time if it intends to ignore the panel's advice. If that happens, the Communications Minister would need to consult the Leader of the Opposition. If that still fails to produce a consensus, the government's pick would be subject to a full public Senate committee inquiry, similar to confirmation hearings in the US Senate.
Opposition leader Bill Shorten is also calling for change. And if the government were to lose the Wentworth by-election, it's conceivable that something along those lines might even get through Parliament. Meanwhile, can we expect Scott Morrison's government to back off? Well, no. On Sunday, the PM warned,
I expect the ABC board to do better, and if they don't, well, they can expect a bit more attention from me.
Right. But now, let's switch to more colourful stories and a stunning revelation from Who magazine about one of Australia's biggest and most famous criminal investigations.
The real Ivan Milat? He's Australia's most notorious serial killer, but the real murderer may have been allowed to walk free.
Really? Ivan Milat was framed? What a sensational story. So, who really killed all those poor backpackers?
One woman claims the father of her two children, the now deceased German-born Win Kasperczek, was really the one responsible for the crimes, and has spoken of her support for Milat to have a retrial.
Amazing. So, this bloke Kasperczek, now dead, is the real backpacker murderer, according to his unnamed ex-partner. And how does she know? Well, she told Who that among the awful things Kasperczek did to their two kids was making them witness the murders. And even worse than that.
They were forced to participate in mutilating the victims. They described how horrified they looked and how frightened their eyes were when they died, when they were stabbed and shot.
It is ghastly stuff and quite gratuitous. Who then recounts our unnamed source's amazement when Ivan Milat was the only man arrested.
I was completely shocked because the police, especially Detective Sergeant Gay Creer, had told me that Wynne was the chief suspect in the backpacker murders.
And why did they arrest the wrong man? Simple.
It didn't fit their theory as far as framing Ivan Milat, so they left Kasperczek right out of it.
The so-called framing of Milat is a theory oft-peddled in darker corners of the internet. And Milat's nephew, Alistair Shipsey, has spent years promoting Kasperczek as the prime suspect via his still live Facebook page. Here is one of his key claims.
They framed Ivan for a quick conviction to clear the books to get the Olympics for the country.
Shipsy also likes the conspiracy theory that former New South Wales Premier John Fahey and then International Olympic Committee head Juan Antonio Samaranch were up to their necks in it. But even that didn't put Who off. In fact, they quoted Milat's nephew in the story.
I have proof of a combi that was connected to the backpack murders, Shipsy tells Who. It was found full of human blood, and they never had it in Ivan's trial. Ivan deserves a retrial.
Detective Clive Small led the backpacker task force that put Ivan Milat behind bars, and he told Media Watch that Who's wrongful conviction claim is
a load of bloody rubbish. It really is. When you consider all the evidence in Ivan Milat's possession from all the people he killed and in the hands of his family members who said Ivan gave it to me, there was more than ample evidence.
One of the senior prosecutors on the case, Ian Lloyd QC, agreed.
I have no doubt whatsoever that Milat killed the victims. Most importantly, the jury who convicted him of the killings also had no doubt as to his guilt.
The judge also described the case against Milat as overwhelming. And what about Gay Kriya, the police officer who supposedly told Who's source that Kaspacek was the killer? He told Media Watch,
I strongly deny ever saying that to her. It never happened.
We're used to reading fiction and lies in the gossip mags, but Who normally rises above the others. This time, however, it's guilty of some shockingly bad journalism, and those responsible should be ashamed of themselves. So, what do they have to say in their defence? Nothing at all. But now to high-flying technology reporters and their shiny new gadgets. Here's Channel 7's Sunrise last Thursday.
Buying a camera can be a challenge with so many options on the market.
Sunrise consumer correspondent Sean White has been testing out the newest device at Sean.
Yes, good morning everyone. We're told the new GoPro Hero 7 Black is an absolute game changer, so I rounded up the best in the biz and we headed to the ultimate visual playground, New Zealand.
Lucky Sean and lucky GoPro, which got a comprehensive and overwhelmingly positive review on 7 for its new device.
But whether you're kayaking in the Abel Tasman National Park or mountain biking along the Queen Charlotte track, the device makes handheld footage look like it came from a stabilised gimbal.
That, you might be surprised to learn, was not an ad, at least not according to 7. But it was an all-expenses-paid luxury junket for Sunrise and its crew, courtesy of GoPro and Tourism New Zealand. According to this press release, dispatched the same day as 7's story,
the trip is part of Tourism New Zealand's South Island Journeys campaign.
But, strangely, that wasn't mentioned by reporter Sean White or the Sunrise hosts. And this, we've discovered, is par for the course when it comes to morning TV gadget reports. Here's Sunrise's resident tech head Val Quinn spruiking a new range of audio gear live from New York in June.
So they're little earbuds, sort of like music earbuds. They're completely wireless. And what they do is you put them in your ear and they block noise coming in, and then they cover and replace the noise with white noise.
And what was Quinn doing in Manhattan? Well, as he wrote on his Gadget Guy blog, the manufacturer flew him over there for the launch, of course. Not that Sunrise viewers were told. Nor were fans of Nines Today told about their experts' junket to Silicon Valley to try out the new range of Apple phones and watches.
Our tech expert Trevor Long is at Apple headquarters in California. Trev, good morning to you. There are two new flagship models. Tell us about the iPhone XS and XS Max.
Nice. And he did, at great length. And he was back on Weekend Today 2 days later with an exclusive tour of the Apple building. And on a current affair the following week for another Apple review for its viewers. But there was no disclosure there or on Today that Apple had paid his way. Or when Samsung flew him to New York in August. Or back in March for product launches, all expenses paid. And why not? Well, maybe it's assumed that viewers just know that all these commentators are wined, dined and flown at the pointy end by the companies they're reviewing. But we reckon they still need to be told, each and every time these talking heads are on. We put that to 9 and 7. They declined to comment. And there's more about tonight's stories on our Facebook page or our website, where you can read a transcript and a statement from Milat investigator Clive Small. And don't forget Media Bites on your favourite social media platform every Thursday. But for now, until next week, that's it from us. Goodbye.